Hey there, Blazer fans, and welcome to episode 46 of The Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. Today, I have a unique guest on my podcast, the first family member of a former player, Miss Neena Speer. Neena is the daughter of the late former UAB men's basketball player Donnie Speer, who played for the Blazers on the very first teams from 1978 to 1982. I had a great talk with Neena, so let's go ahead and get into it. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy. All right, Blazer fans, I've got my guest here for episode 46 of The Dragon's Den. It's kind of a unique episode. I've got a former player's family member on today, Mrs. Neena Speer. Neena, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, y'all. I'm doing great. I was a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't spoken live about anything about dad, and since he passed, really, I just don't talk about it. It's very hard.
Well, Neena, I'm definitely glad to have you on. It's like I said, it's kind of a unique experience because I usually typically talk to former players or fans or anything like that. So to have it from a perspective of a family member is definitely different. But I'm definitely excited to hear some of your stories.
Yes, I can't wait. It's just a great way to honor dad, and I mean, funny enough, it's just UAB. I mean, everything points back to UAB. Isn't that crazy?
So your dad was from Sylacauga, Alabama. As a high school 3A All-Star center, Donnie averaged 21 points, 17 rebounds, and six block shots per game, leading BB Comer to a 27-5 record. He was selected to the All-Star State High School All-Star team and was the starting center for the South squad. At one point, your dad also had prep high school point averages of 40 points and was selected to the All-State tournament team his junior and senior year. Your dad was a big part of those first UAV teams. His freshman year, he played 18 games. His sophomore year, he played 25. His junior and senior seasons, he kind of really stepped into full roles in terms of stats. In our conversations before we recorded, you mentioned that he came to UAB and he really learned a lot more about the fundamentals. What do you know about how he improved?
So this is kind of interesting. It kind of brings me back to like how dad taught me the fundamentals. I literally was learning how to pass and dribble in the garage at home with dad. But he didn't really learn them at BB Comer. He was really just like a big guy. What he told me is once he came to UAB with Gene Bartow and the staff, it was a lot easier for him to learn the fundamentals. It was more a team collaboration type thing. So he learned a lot of it on the spot at UAB. He did some other stuff to kind of improve his chances. But what I really loved was that, everybody doesn't have to start off as like this very, very skilled in fundamentals player in order for them to make the team. I actually had that similar battle when I was in high school. I didn't have, all the fundamentals down, but my coach didn't take a chance on me, right? But my dad's coach, Bartow, bringing him from a small town in Sylacauga and giving him an opportunity where, I mean, at that time, it was still some weird stuff going on. You looked a certain way, and taking a chance on him and giving him the opportunity to perform on a bigger stage. I think that's what built up his confidence is that, a team took a chance on him when other teams might not have taken a chance because they're like, oh, he's a big guy, but he doesn't know that this and that. But all things about players, it can be taught. The fundamentals can always be taught. Those are actually why they're called the fundamentals. You can teach the fundamentals. What you can't teach is the things that my dad brought to the table that were beyond basketball, which was the heart, the character, the overall good champion mindset. So I think that he learned the fundamentals because they prioritize finding good players.
Definitely. Well, his junior season, he averaged 9.5 points per game. He also averaged 5 rebounds per game. He scored in double figures 16 times, had 36 block shots, and 25 steals that season. He also scored in double figures in UAB's first big NCAA tournament win over Kentucky. Kentucky was led by All-American Sam Bowie. Hearing all that and knowing he got those victories over Western Kentucky in the first round and then, the big time Kentucky in the second round. How does it feel to hear that your dad had such an impact?
It feels pretty cool because I was actually in Kentucky presenting research. I was there during the Final Four, and they were the buzz was big and everybody was excited about, UK, Kentucky, and seeing what's going to happen. And I remember like, wow, did they really love basketball here? And to know that, dad was a part of a team that was able to make a real run for the city of Birmingham. I mean, that's a pretty cool, realization that, that team got together and grouped together and really made an impact and actually gave hope in Birmingham. Where a lot of people, when they were looking for basketball, they never thought, oh, let me look at UAB. And then they
Yeah,
saw the team. And they were like, wow, we're with you. We're like, we are with you. And I'll talk to you guys, whenever y'all want. But that was actually why my childhood was so full, because most people watch my dad and his teammates play these games. And I didn't have such barriers and obstacles because so many people thought that he was such a great man and a great player, and he was part of such a great community, and he made a good name for himself, that they were just like, hey, you're Donnie Speer's daughter. So I mean, I took the Donnie Speer's daughter before I took Neena very early on in life. And so I will say that being a part of somebody who is a part of history is something where you look at it and you're like, well, this is a cool intersection. Like, he's in the books. There's articles written about him, and you look his name up, there's still stuff out there about all the impact he made. So I thought that was really cool.
definitely. Well, his senior season was another great year for the Blazers. You kind of mentioned that championship mindset, that championship heart that he had. It definitely helped out because UAB won their first conference championship over VCU for the Sun Belt title. And then the very next game, UAB defeated defending national champions Indiana, and then went on to have a huge upset over number one seed Virginia, and Ralph Sampson, All American. He and his fellow teammate Norman Ankrum down low had their hands full with Ralph Sampson, but your dad ended up finishing with 10 points and got the best of Ralph, sending UAB to the Elite Eight. How often did he mention that game? And what was it like? What was his relationship like with his other teammates?
I just remember my dad talking about how much he loved the game of basketball. One thing that we talked about, which is the fact that, because he wasn't like most people get really excited. They put their championship trophies up and, oh, look at those back when days. My dad wasn't that person, right? He was the person that had the pictures, memorializing the moments, but he captured the shots of everything in history for our family. So like around the house, there were different photos of those milestone moments of my dad doing this with the basketball or that with the basketball. And it's just there as us kind of walk through our history lesson. So it's not like we got the championship trophy, but it's like that moment where they're all smiling and they're standing right under, and they're just finally gone for this bid and they've done something successful. And I think my dad was just always proud of the game of basketball, and it showed even after he wasn't playing anymore. He would go to UAB games. He would be, very avid in watching NBA. He would watch, some college, but he really liked NBA. And I think it's just because, you get drawn into the thick of NBA. It's all part of this, glitz and glamour, but he'd attached. He liked players like Shaq and things like that. And he attached to even LeBron. Me and my dad had our contention because I was a Kobe fan, dad was LeBron fan. But he was very, very excited about the game of basketball. Every time he would talk about it, he was excited. It did take a toll on his body, but he enjoyed the game of basketball. And I was even interested in it as a kid because of him. That's the whole reason why I even tried to go out for the team, because I wanted to be more like my dad.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, your dad, you mentioned pro basketball. Your dad was selected in the eighth round of the 1982 NBA draft by the Denver Nuggets. He went on to play pro basketball overseas. What do you know about his time playing basketball overseas?
What I know is really more so from my mom. We talk about it, briefly, because I mean, my dad just talked about exploring and going all over, but it was really hard on his body. Like, and I don't know that we talk about this enough in sports, but like even going overseas, you're still just trying to make it. And because his legs and all the other things that ended up being big, health issues for him later, he just wasn't still able to, hack the body, the wear and tear on the body. It was great to go to all these places. He got to go to, I think, Hawaii, I think once, and some other places that I have never been, I think to Paris. But I don't think that people understand enough how much wear and tear it has on your body. And he had 2 flat feet. So, he was running up and down that court with 2 flat feet, 6'8" man. And there were other issues that he had to face and overcome because, you think about where you growing up and, the food that's available to you and what exactly is healthy and how we are all now talking about being healthy and nutritious, but we weren't then, but we were still feeding them, stuff that was high and fat and all that other stuff, and then sending them out to play the game.
Yeah.
So it was just, there wasn't a lot taught. Luckily, he met mama, and mama is very health conscious. But like, that's really the big thing is if you look at it from a perspective of you're just trying to make it. He was just, I was trying to make it. I had a dream and I wanted to feel it. So he went out to go chase after that dream. Unfortunately, it didn't work out either with the Denver Nuggets and overseas. He wasn't able to do it long term. But I'm really glad that we got him back because I don't think that I would have been okay with my dad being gone so much because being in the NBA or being overseas as an international player, that takes you away from your family a lot. So I think that even though he came back for health reasons, I think that it made it so that we could have an active, loving father in our life.
You mentioned your dad started an interesting activity to help with his balance as a player, and this led to a certain nickname that he got. Okay, do you care to tell my listeners?
Yes. So my dad actually got the big D, which was like dancing for him dancing. So he actually was doing ballet for his balance to improve. So like I'm imagining this 6'8" black skinny guy from Silicaga in a tutu, because that's where my brain went when dad said he did ballet. Now that's not how it goes, but in my head, that's how I heard it. And when my dad was like, "Yeah, I did ballet to, get my balance." First of all, it was just how nonchalant he said it. And then number two, it was just understanding that, people can be in sports that aren't necessarily rigid into this gender stereotype role that can help them become better. And to
Yeah.
put my dad in the class of ballet, it would just mind-boggling to me as a child. But as I grew older, I was like, yo, I mean, yoga is my thing. Like, more men should do yoga. But things like that we were not encouraging. He was already trying to get some balance in his life. Now, I don't know, because ballet be tearing up your feet. So I don't know if the guys have to wear the point shoes. I don't know that information, but I do know that he said that ballet really helped him improve his balance and his overall being able to be effective on the court.
Gotcha. Well, one thing that we talked about a lot before recording was your dad's legacy and his character. You mentioned many older generations you met in your childhood used to watch your dad play. What does it mean to you to hear that his legacy still carries on as a player and as a man?
So it's like having him here. He lives on in the stories of people. Every time I go out, I let somebody know, hey, my dad was Donnie Speer. You probably know him. He played on UAB's team. Most of the time when I'm in Birmingham, that's how most people even know of the name Speer. And I get to hear about so many stories like, I watched your dad growing up, or that team gave me hope, or, I that your dad was a great man. And it's like he's living still through these stories, through the impact, because it's really about legacy building as an athlete. And I know that we're talking about it briefly in this whole age of name, image, and likeness, but I mean, he was a living embodiment of what it was like to have good control over his name, image, and likeness. Nobody ever used anything of his against his will. He was able to have his image out there as a positive beacon in the community. And when his name was mentioned, it was all good things. It came up good. It's come up in court. I've gone to a municipal court, and a judge that was sitting knew of my dad and was like, hey, I didn't know he passed, and called some other people. I mean, that's how embedded it is when you return home. And like I left, I went to Howard University for undergrad. I came back, but I always was going to come back because I wanted to come back and affect the community that I was raised in. And so when you see the embedded impact of somebody who you didn't even know, right? You didn't know them, you might not know of them, but so many other people know of them. It makes people start, wow, that was your dad. Wow, that was your dad. And it keeps him with me. And sometimes just seeing different things, going past Bartow Arena, looking at the Student Hill Center, going past the old the athlete dorms or the old apartment complexes. Those are like living tattoos of my dad, just kind of leaving his impression all over, the city of Birmingham. And I think that that's what it's really about, is that it's a living tattoo. And you can decide how your tattoo is going to make an impact and what your tattoo is going to mean and all the other things, but you have to determine what your permanent legacy is going to be. And I think that he lived the way that he was supposed to.
100%. Love it. I love the answer.
Mhm.
You also told me that your dad met the love of his life at UAB. How and where did that happen?
That's funny. I mean, they keep on redoing it. I don't know what they're going to do reconstruction wise, but like the Hill Center that I mentioned earlier, my dad was in the building. He was closing down the building. My mom was studying there. One day, the lady who was supposed to come with my mom didn't come. And I had this misconception that my dad had asked my mom out all the years. And then one day, I got to the bottom of it. And my mom was like, no, I asked him out. And I was like, Daddy, and she's like, go ask your dad. And so I went and asked my dad, and he said, yeah, I didn't know this Indian woman was going to go out, but me, I didn't know. And it was just the most organic, true, I'm so glad I asked thing. But the way that the two of them like met was she was studying, they would talk, close down the building almost, just have good conversations. And one day she was available to talk. And it was like magic. She's like, you want to go to coffee? Yes, I want to go to coffee. And I'm really happy they went to coffee, because had they not, my sister and I would not be here. And I think my dad and my mom were strong in so many different ways. My mom was strong in so many areas, and my dad was strong in so many areas. So when they were together, it was allowing us to have that loving, supportive, we can show you the way to success and generational wealth that we needed growing up as kids, and that a lot of kids need, because they were able to give us the life that my dad did not grow up with. And my mom was able to give us the life that allowed us to have our freedom and our experiences. And we were international, right? We had family overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So got a chance to know more than just American culture. I got to know Indian culture. I got to go abroad. And these are things that most kids don't get a chance to experience when they grow up in just strictly American households. But they gave us a best of both worlds experience.
That's awesome. Well, your dad was an assistant coach at UAB from 1985 to 1987, and then he became the director of operations at UAB Arena, which is now Bartow Arena, running events and games. Your dad was obviously close to UAB. What did he love about working at UAB?
So from what I saw, I think he loved being able to um, create organization and structures, which is funny because it's something that I enjoy. But everything that he listed, because Dad took copious notes, is all organized. It's in binders, it's in folders, it's literally in little, little things where you put your index cards in. It's in little boxes and Rolodexes. It was organizing, right? Organizing something and making it efficiently run and figuring out how we could improve it each time. And I could see it in, notes that I've seen him write about different events. He would track the finances for the event down to the number and the budget. And you could see, right, how much time and market research he had put into trying to figure out how to make this event a game changer event for UAB. It wasn't just like events for him. He went, I think I found a cleaning manual for him to learn how to be the best cleaner that he could be, for UAB. And if he had to clean up, that was something that my dad was willing to do. I just found so many things just going back through all the history of what he's left us, because he's got lots of legacy of his notes and everything that he's been, putting together. And I think he was putting together with us in mind that if you ever wanted to know about me, here's everything that I ever thought, things that I wrote, my notes on different things. And those are just I mean, you have to be a true historian to be able to see such value in the fact that people left notes and to-do lists and books and note cards about different court cases. Because my daddy wasn't a lawyer, but he sure wrote down like several court cases related to students and student affairs that you should know. And he just had it written out. And I said, you know what? And that's why I was going to be a lawyer. See, I just needed to find a box.
Well, you mentioned you and your family would go to games as a family together. What are some of your best memories of going to games?
So I was a kid when we went, so I just like the fact that I could put my feet up and wasn't nobody in front of me because we were sitting in the handicap section at that time, and I didn't know much as a kid, but I just knew that I got to kick my feet up on those little poles and just relax. And I liked basketball. Like as a kid, I liked basketball. I liked that we went to will call and the tickets was waiting for us because they really did a good effort to bring back in old players. I mean, they brought them back. They invited them to events even after, they had finished playing. So they invited them to networking events and things like that. And my mom and dad had gone. But I just like being a part of like this whole UAB arena and sitting there and getting a chance to like cheer on basketball. The crowd went wild. We went wild. We never stayed to the end of the game because traffic is always horrendous outside Bartow, you know.
Mhm.
But we were always there just having a good time and it was relaxing. And it was cool because you got a chance to be like, Daddy, you played here. He's like, yeah, I did. I played here.
Well, in 2011, your dad had his number 44 retired at BB, his number 44 jersey retired at BB Comer High School in honor of his accomplishments and the 1978 state tournament team that he was a part of. What did that mean to your dad?
So, backstory on this. This is the one regret I have in my career of college. I decided to stay at school and focus on my studies instead of go to this retiring ceremony. And I kind of, that's my biggest regret because that was something where, I mean, how often do they retire your jersey from high school, And it was a big deal. And I chose school over going over there. And I remember my dad telling me, no, baby, you got to focus on school. So my dad was one of those things, like he probably wanted me to come, but I was feeling overwhelmed. I had just started at Howard University. I was just getting my bearings on straight. And I was like, Daddy, I can't come. I want to come. And he was like, that's okay. And so my sister and my mom were there, and it was so nice that I think his coach, his last name is Spear as well. It's Spear, but it's still Spear. So his old coach's last name was Spear, so it was like a spear teaching a spear. So it was really cool just to see the pictures and stuff. But at that point, his health had kind of declined a little bit. So he was in that motorized wheelchair, but he was still looking, excited. I think it was one of the last times that he kind of let people take pictures of him because he was in more of his health was kind of having a little bit of a difficulty at that point. But yeah, it was, I think it was one of those things where he was just in awe, like, hey, you're retiring my jersey. My family who can come here is here, but even if they can't be here, it's just cool that I'm retiring my jersey. And my dad, even for graduations, he couldn't get out the house, as his health declined, but he got out the house for this one thing. And I thought that was something meaningful. He went on down there. And so that means that Sylacauga is important. And even when we went to go see the family, the only time Daddy would get out the house was to go see the family in Sylacauga. So I think that that was something very meaningful to him. And I think that the roots, or being very loyal to your roots and going back home, is something that was very important to him.
Definitely sounds like it. Sadly, your dad passed away in 2019. As we mentioned, your dad's legacy carries on through his actions, the memories of plenty of UAB fans, and of course your family. What is something that you will always take away from your dad?
One thing that I will take away is something he's told me over and over again is, Neena, you got to have discipline. most of his entire, even when he was having health battles, was he disciplined himself, right, to take care of whatever he needed to take care of, to discipline his mind so he didn't go crazy at the house, to discipline himself, to have hobbies, to be able to outlet so that he didn't sit in whatever it was, the funk that we sit in life. But he disciplined himself according to, I'm going to make sure that, if I got to do something for my health, I'm going to do my workouts. If he had a issue with his leg, he did his workouts to strengthen his leg so he could continue to move around. He got himself so disciplined that we've had to put in those hand controls in the car, because we just thought when he had the amputation for his leg, he couldn't drive. And he got in that car and he went and got himself something from McDonald's to let us know that he could take care of continuing to be a part of active lifestyle. And, as his health, declined later on, he still tried to be there physically, trying to do everything possible, going to physical therapy, doing the exercises. And that was all discipline. My daddy was the strongest arm wrestler that ever was. I tried to arm wrestle with him many times, but I don't think I ever was able to overcome his arm wrestling skills. So, my dad did what most of us don't do if we find ourselves in unfortunate situations. We just kind of feel sorry for myself. My dad, he might have had those moments, but he took a lot of time disciplining himself so he didn't stay in those moments, so he could continue to be the joy we needed at the house.
You mentioned your dad used to play in old summer basketball leagues, and you have a goal for the future to do something similar. What is it?
So my hope is, and I got to ask for y'all's help, okay, is that I want to restart the Summer League. I want to name it in honor of my dad. I want the proceeds to go to the National Kennedy Foundation. But I think it's something that would allow us to honor legends, right? And as we look at, UAB and the marketing and stuff, it's all about, legendary legends. Like, what legend are we going to create? How are we going to make a name for ourselves? And you already birthed legends. So if you birthed legends, why not honor them? Why not provide a way for the families of those legends to be able to be honored and continue on their legacies, so that they don't sit here, right? And just, oh, that's such a nice trophy on the shelf. We're more than a trophy, right? That those legends provide the framework for what a champion athlete can look like at UAB and what it can continue to be. They provide more insights into how we can get our programs up on the place that we need to be at, right? So they can become these championship programs again than any other well-meaning speaker ever could. So I think the summer leagues, Kobe had it right? He did his summer leagues. Those summer leagues made a difference. And having that for kids, opening that up, letting legends go back and teach, having people go in and work with kids about getting that mindset right before they do anything else, right? Because you don't just have to give yourself to basketball. You can learn the stats, like Will over here. Will knows stats like the back of his head, and learn the stats, right? You can learn the analytics behind it all.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to a summer league than just playing basketball. And I think that if we open it up that way, it could be really, really impactful to the city of Birmingham. And UAB is so big. UAB almost owns most of Birmingham. I'm not trying to be funny, but you try to buy some property over there by UAB, it's probably already purchased.
Well, I love it. I love the idea, and yeah, if anybody that's listening, any former players wants to consider taking the reins, I know I've got a few connections, so we'll uh, if you like the idea, let's try and get something going. But um, Neena, I do have some personal questions for you. What are you up to these days?
So I finally got that good government job that my daddy wanted me to have, that stable job. So I'm working for the federal government. Can't disclose where, but I do work as an attorney. It is very, very new, so I can't tell you much about it, except I know that we have 20 weeks of attorney training, and it is very intense, but it is very detailed. So I will not be lost when I get my first real case. And then I'm also doing financial literacy in the schools. So I teach using with Bread Center and the Better Basics Birmingham and Fairfield City Schools, Norwood Elementary, Glen Iris, I think CJ Donald, and Robinson Elementary School. I'm always open to more, but I have actually been diving into artificial intelligence. So I am teaching artificial intelligence as it relates to business literacy using my intellectual property law knowledge as a lawyer. So if anybody needs to know about that type of stuff, I never knew that I was going to be doing it, but my dad was the tech whiz, had all the different tech things, but it was all like photos and videos and computers, but I never knew that I was going to understand what artificial intelligence was. We watched all those sci-fi movies, but I didn't know I was going to be in a sci-fi reality.
So, what are some of your hobbies and how is the family?
So hobbies, y'all, I didn't know I could rap. I go to karaoke one time and I just tried to rap a Missy Elliott song and it went really well. And so my karaoke used to be singing, but now I go rap. My other hobby is that I do plus size modeling. So it's not really a hobby. I am trying to make like a career of it so that I can do it. You know, I like clothes. Plus size clothing is very hard to come by and it's not as fashionable as we would like, but we're going to change and disrupt that. And then, of course, I love food. So please, more sushi places need to open up. I also love Korean bathhouses and Korean shows and love dramas. So these are things that if you guys could just bring more of these to Birmingham, I would be happy. I love all of the culture. It's just a very cool culture. If you ever look into Korean culture, I'm Asian, so you know I look into all the Asian cultures. But I look into things like that, and I just really like Korean bathhouses. I'm sold. My mom, she's doing good. I'm still here with mom. My sister, she's in, I believe she's in Baltimore. I can't keep up with everything. I just know she's in Baltimore, and I know that she is moving past with her PhD in physics. You know, mom's got 5 degrees, I got like four, and sister got like five or either way, we're all very smart. My daddy said we got our smarts from my mama, but I think we got our smarts from both of them. So the family's doing good. We don't get to see each other as often because we are working. But we would like, you know, we always think of my dad with such, you know, reverence. So the family always, every time we get together, we just, man, daddy, you know, we have some funny story. Some, you remember when Uncle Donnie used to, or you remember when your dad used to, and it's worth it, right? So the
Definitely.
family's doing good, but you know, we always working. So y'all, you know, just keep working. If you know there's struggle, just understand it. It's okay. We're not gonna have to work forever. We just gonna work real hard right now. It's gonna pay off.
Definitely. Well, how can my listeners stay engaged with you?
Honestly, just follow me on Instagram. Neena Neena underscore Ronnie is Neena. You go if you mess that up, you ain't gonna get the rest. And then underscore RANI. If you get confused and you're just like Neena, I don't know, girl, just Neena Spear. You'll see that in the episode. Just look me up. You'll be able to find most of my information online. I don't try to hide anything. I am hard to reach because I am always working. I'm a very busy woman, but I have time for people who really want to collaborate on anything in the sports, entertainment, artificial intelligence space, and really want to see these athletes get financially literate. That's my goal, and that's my mission and purpose. So if that's something you're aligned on, then we can definitely talk. But until until then, I just want to can I give them something motivational before we close out?
Go for it.
Okay, so I just want to let you know if you have lost somebody, okay, and this is just, it was on my heart. You've lost somebody, dad, mom, parent. It doesn't get any easier, right? It was not very easy for me to get up here and do a podcast, especially when you think about how often you get a chance to talk about that person from a perspective of like, you know, they're not here anymore. I can't physically consult with them and ask them how I did. So if you lost someone, I just want you to take that time really and grieve. Okay, take the time to grieve, but then try to figure out what you can do to honor that person's memory. I spent 5 years trying to figure out what to do. You know, it's just to get to figure out my life and then in 2019 when he passed, because he was going down 5 years ago. That's why I really moved back home. But it took me about 5 years to figure out how to do something to honor my dad and honor my mom and honor my family overall. If you can find a way to honor their memory in a way that doesn't like elevate or put you at the forefront and make you like the big deal, and finds a way to actually honor other people and be community oriented, you're going to find that that might be your purpose. And I ran from sports, y'all. I was like, I'm not doing sports. I can't do this. You know, but everybody who I mentored were athletes and people I had talked to, and they come back and do stuff for me even now, were some of my athletes from Howard. I love sports. I always go to sporting events. I worked for the World Games. I was in sports, right? So don't run away, right? Don't run away. Even if it's something that brings up a hard memory for you, I want you to run towards it instead of run away from it, because I spent 5 years running away from sports thinking that nobody would take me seriously as a woman, because I didn't take me seriously as a woman in sports, because I didn't have no heels or nothing. I was just walking around in tennis shoes. But nobody told me I could do that. Nobody said I could do it until I told myself I could do it. And I reminded myself that you don't have to be a woman in heels to be in sports. You just have to be a woman in sports who knows her stuff and make sure you honor the people that you love no matter what. But that's just something that was on my heart. Like, I was like, I ran from this. I ran from doing anything in sports all this time because of the hard memories of my dad not being here anymore. And everything I did, every job I got, every side hustle I had, it brought me back to sports. I was mentoring young athletes. And I said, why am I running from this? And I didn't after a while. So don't run forever, okay? You can run a little bit, but don't run forever, okay? This is not no marathon. You got to get to your purpose.
Neena, I'll end it on a quote here from a former teammate of your dad's and a former guest on the podcast, Mr. Chris Giles. He had this to say about your dad when I told him I was having you on the podcast. I wanted to know a little bit about anything that he had a quote about your dad. And of course, in true Chris Giles fashion, he had a little fun with it. He said, Donnie's nickname on the team was Big Cat or Catman because everybody had a scratch from Donnie after practice. So
He has some long nails. He has some long
hey,
nails.
he had to be
But
tough. I mean, he had to go against some bigger guys in the lane. I don't doubt it. I like the tough
he can't
play.
always cut them nails down. You just got to make sure you're not in the line of fire. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
it's good blocking. It's just good blocking.
Mm-hmm. Well, Neena, I definitely appreciate your time. I really enjoy getting to hear your side of history for UAB, but also your side as a family member. It's definitely a uh, a side that I'm definitely going to try and go with in the future. Again, it's always nice to hear from family members because their side is always different too. So I really appreciate it, and I really thank you for your time.
Thank you guys. Talk to y'all soon.
All right, thank you, Neena.
Love you, Dad.
All right. I want to thank Neena so much for going into all of her stories and, giving her time to share the passion of sharing her dad's story. You don't have to go far to find out the impact that Donnie Speer had in basketball at UAB and around the state. And just his reputation as a person was also very great. So thanks so much, Neena. And I'm glad to see you're doing well. And that'll do it for episode 46. If you enjoyed it, be on the lookout for my guest announcement for episode 47 coming soon. You can see that, game day graphics and news, and more on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Just search at Dragon's Den EFEL on those platforms. Thank you again for listening. Good night, and go Blazers.